Closing the current infrastructure gap and reaching the desired optimal investment, the country must aggressively increase core infrastructure stock to about 70%. And one way to achieve this will be through foreign direct investment. That's coming from our guest.
National Planning Commission of Nigeria, that's the government of Nigeria, engaged with private sector investors, global stakeholders and all of that. And in 2014, with funding from global entities, in 2014 went through an extensive period and wrote this Nigeria Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan. And they were not looking at just aviation, or indeed they were not looking at only transportation. They were looking at the entire infrastructure gamut, including power, energy, pipelines, all of those things, ICT, telecoms, broadband. Our infrastructure stock is around 30 to 35% of GDP. The global benchmark is 70%. So it shows that there's something wrong. I think the gap is funding, as I've said earlier. Then, they then did a thorough study of all the sectors and concluded that we need about $2.9 trillion of investment in infrastructure over the next 30 years from 2014 to get us to where we should be. Out of that, it's $50 billion that is for, 800 billion for transportation dollars, and 50 billion of that 800 billion is for the aviation sector. So that's the kind of resources that need to come into the aviation sector. Sovereign Wealth Fund, yes, it has 1 billion of assets. It's already invested, but can it extract that kind of enough? Of course, we need 49 billion more, even if it was going to put all of his money, which it cannot do. So maybe it can put $50 million, $100 million. Then we go to all the global stakeholders in aviation. In the end, I believe that funding, of course, the National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan does not rule out a role for government. So it still provides that 52% of the funding for infrastructure will come from government, and then 48% from the private sector. I think those are models we can try and be creative with in Nigerian aviation and attract the resources required. Even if we wanted to do a government-owned airline, if we got 48% investment from the private sector, that will give us a more viable business model for running a profitable airline. Consider the Nigerian LNG, for instance, which is a government, significantly 49% government owned. So it still qualifies to be called a government, but it has private partners who own 51% of the equity. And they run a damn good company. That's the kind of model we should be thinking of. It gives us the ability to attract funding from non-government sources, and it gives us access to skills and management competence, and most of all, the governance required to run a profitable entity. It's a global world, and the aviation sector is a global industry. So we need to recognize the reality that a lot of the capital that will come to develop Nigerian infrastructure, not just the airline and the planes, but the airports and the airport hotels and all of the ancillary things that make aviation an interesting exercise. A lot of that capital will come from outside. And so that's the role of foreign direct investment, because there will be entities, including all these. It could be an airline that wants to invest in a Nigerian airline, that's FDI. It could be a bank, it could be a global private equity firm, it could be a multilateral agency. Whoever it is, it's likely that a big portion of the capital that will go into the Nigerian aviation sector will come from abroad. And that's FDI. I don't think Nigeria in the last few years, particularly regarding policy, has paid enough attention to that. We're getting better in the last few months with the stability in FX. One of the things that was a big stumbling block was that confusion over FX. Because for investors, you see, for you who live here, the exchange rate may not be important if you are not traveling, if you are not buying anything. But for the investor, the first thing he encounters is your exchange rate, because that's the mechanism through which he brings in the investment. So it's a deal breaker. And in 2016, our exchange rate management system was a deal breaker for most foreign investors. I think we've gotten better. I think we can improve that. The Vice President and the PEBEC team and all of that are working on ease of doing business, which are also considerations. How easy is it? All of these things that affect investors. But in the end, it's the policy environment we create, the macroeconomic environment we create.
Aviation.